2024. This year is going to be a year of the fives. My forecast is we're going to see about a 5% appreciation by the end of the year in the U.S., more in Philly and the burbs. And we're going to see mortgage rates by the middle to the end of the year with a 5 and 5.99 counts, and we'll do well over 5 million in transactions. And as they always say, most agents know what's happening, good agents understand what's happening, and great agents can explain what's happening. And that's what we're going to do today. Diane Cardano-Casacio, associate broker for the Cardano team here, and I'm going to give you this lowdown of what's happening in the February real estate market here in Philly and the burbs and the U.S. And I'm going to talk about 4 topics in this month's report. What's happening right now, what happened in the 2023 forecast last year, that market, and where the prices are going for 2024. And lastly, the mortgage rate predictions. Let's get started. Number 1, what's happening right now in the real estate market? And there's a lot of misunderstanding that the public is filtering now due to what's being said in this mainstream media compared to what's really taking place in the market. There's a big disconnect. So right now, 24% of the consumers still believe that prices are going to depreciate over the next 12 months. That number is usually half that amount, but less than what the people were thinking in January of last year. The news and the media was saying that the sky is going to be falling. This next graph shows you the percent of people who believe that prices were going to appreciate over the last 12 months. Take a look at this graph. In January, 37% of Americans thought that prices were going to come down. They thought there was going to be an Armageddon. And as you can see by this graph, that perception went down as the year proved itself. We had a strong year in 2023, price-wise, compared to what people were projecting, especially in the Northeast. Now, this next graph shows a 9.4% increase year over year in the Northeast, the highest of all the regions, compared to the U.S. average of 4.4%. And we are in Philly and the burbs in the Northeast. Now, once that year over year data comes in, experts are saying we might be finishing the year between 5 and 6%, and some are saying 7%. So because 1 out of 4 people still are believing prices will depreciate in 2024, that is why I'm talking about home price appreciation in this February market report. It's my job to let the public know the truth of what's really taking place in the market, because there's enough doomers out there that are running their YouTube channels out of the basement or out of their mother's apartment talking about the Armageddon's here. They say this every year because negative news sells, right? And every year they're wrong. But every single year they have these listeners and they have followers. And that's why I do my YouTube channel. And that's why I hope you're following me and subscribe to my channel, because I'm keeping it real of what's really happening, because I need to combat this problem that we have as strong as I possibly can. What's going on with the media. Number 2, I'm going to talk about home appreciation for 2023. Now, this graph here shows a monthly appreciation as the year goes on, and it compares 2023 to the 49-year average, because historically what happens is like prices increase as the year goes on. Monthly appreciation at the beginning of the year is low, right? Houses appreciate very little. They appreciate, but not that much. Then as this buying season gears up, the level of appreciation increases rather dramatically. And then once summer passes, the level of appreciation decreases pretty dramatically. So we're waiting for the December numbers for the repeat sales indexes. They're not out yet, but looking at these numbers through November, sure enough, in the month of November, prices depreciated by 0.2%. Now, I mentioned in the previous reporting that I anticipated that. Well, why? Well, if you look at March, April, and May, they were well above the normal 49-year average appreciation. And those numbers had to get back in line. We see as the year went on, they really did get close to the 49-year average, but we still had some to make up, right? Now, it wouldn't surprise me if December number might be in the negative. It's going to be right around that, like 0. And if it is negative or 0, you know what's going to happen. Headlines are going to say, oh, prices are really good and now they're falling. Well, no. They're doing pretty much what the 49-year average says they're going to do. And I'm not even sure they're going to fall for the month of December. Definitely not for the year, because we can see that right here. Now, that's the annual appreciation as of today. So what am I saying? Well, where people were projecting that prices were going to fall 5, 10, 15, 20, some even 25% in January of 2023, and throughout the year, in reality, we had a pretty good year. Matter of fact, we've had an above average year as far as prices are concerned. Now, some people will argue that it's not true because the West Coast is getting killed. Well, let's take a look at this West Coast and the different cities. Next graph showing you the Case-Shiller 20-city index. It breaks it down by the cities. San Francisco, are they getting killed? No. Actually, they had appreciation. Seattle, appreciation. Now, Portland, is that getting killed, losing 0.7%? I don't think it's getting killed, but that is the only city on the West Coast in the 20-city index that showed any depreciation whatsoever at all. Now, what about Las Vegas? They're up. Phoenix, they're up. They had a rough time back then, and they're coming out of it. I believe that each one of these cities will show that they had an appreciation positive impact on prices in 2023. Now, I get there's some abnormalities to the raising prices. I know that Austin and Boise has had a challenge, but don't let people use those two examples to try to prove that prices across the country are failing. Now, those two anomalies, I'm not going to get into what happened with that today. If you want more information about that, you can call me. So the majority of the country has done extremely well. It's not like we're going to get this major shock in December. That's not going to take place. When the final numbers are in, it will show that it was relatively a normal year as far as prices were concerned. So I know when people are buying houses, appreciation is really important to them. I get it. So I'm showing you this graph that shows you price appreciation over the last 30, 10, and 5 years. And FHFA is now saying that it's going to be 7% for 2023. So this is what we have to keep focusing on when I talk about real estate prices. Real estate might not be the best short-term investment according to when depends on when you're buying and what's happening right at the moment in time. But as a long-term investment, it's the number one reason why majority of families that their net worth has gone up so dramatically over the last several years. Usually their home is that they live in is their greatest asset that they own. Number 3, we're going to talk about 2024 and the future for home appreciation. Where's it going? Here's the latest as of January 29th. The latest reporting of the major forecasters and what they think is going to take place. What we can see is that on average, we average all these 8 different economists and companies, and it says that 2.7%. Now, I'm going to tell you, in fairness to Realtor.com, their last forecast was in November, right after the mortgage rates hit 8%, and they were looking at it from a different lens. So I'm relatively sure that the next time their forecast comes out, that number will be adjusted and probably adjusted into the green bar instead of a red bar. They don't release, Realtor.com doesn't release as often as some of the other indexes do. And each of the other indexes are showing that we're going to see appreciation in 2024. And the interesting thing with each one of those is they increased their level of appreciation over the last 2 months. This next graph will show the breakdown of everyone but Realtor.com because they haven't come out with their new one yet. And this is where they stood 2 months ago versus where they stand today, which is great. The middle column is what their original forecast was for 2024 prices as of November 2023. Now the right-hand column in the bold is their current forecast. And we can see that some adjusted it slightly. The home price appreciation went up 0.2%, but the Association of Realtors went up over 1%. Fannie Mae went over 0.4%. Zillow increased over 3%. And the Mortgage Bankers Association increased it 3%, and Goldman Sachs increased it over 3%. And as we're coming into this year, there's much more positive about what's taking place, and people are adjusting based on that positive data that's coming in at the beginning of this year. Now, last thing I want to talk about is mortgage rates. The one thing I want to make sure that I explain today, we're talking about the trend of where mortgage rates are going, not where the mortgage rates are today, because they're change every day. And these rates are directly affected by the 10-year Treasury yield. 4 months ago, they were at 8%, right? And as of this recording, they're at 6.875. And where they're going to be a year from now or 6 months from now is really what's important, not where they're going to be 60 seconds from now. Everybody's always so freaked out when it just happens today and then tomorrow it's better. You got to calm down. People are getting caught a little bit up in this short term when they really should be looking at these long-term trends, right? And this graph here, example, is the mortgage rate is 6.92% in this particular graph, which I'm showing you how it's made up of 2 things. The 10-year Treasury spread here is the 2.9. It's still elevated. It should be normally about 1.7. Now, if that number just got back to the 50-year average shown in this graph, next graph here, we'd already be at 5%. So let's take a look at these 2 things. Number 1, the spread. The spread is not always consistent. It actually widens during periods of economic or geopolitical uncertainty. And that's been the case in today's market. When that increases, it has an impact on mortgage rates. Where are we right now? Well, geopolitically, there's still a lot of uncertainty what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in Ukraine. But economically, I think a lot of uncertainty is gone. Consumers are getting very, very confident, and employment is really strong. So the challenges of, well, here comes a recession. Well, I'm not saying there won't be a recession, but I'm pretty sure that if there's going to be one, it's going to be the softest of all landings. It's like if somebody was in a recession plane right now, asleep, they might not wake up when that plane lands. That's how soft the landing is going to be. I think that the spread will start to come down closer, which will it go to 1.72, the 50-year average? Maybe not. But even if it came down just to 2, we have almost another full percentage drop in mortgage rates. Our primary driver of the increase in the yield has inflation expectations. So the higher the expected future rates of inflation, the higher the yield, and the 10-year is investors' demand to be compensated for the inflation risk in the future. So that's how that all works. Now, why we have this uncertainty is what Powell said regarding inflation on his February 5th comment. He basically said, well, we're not 100% sure inflation's under control. We're pretty sure, but almost definitely sure, but we're not 100% sure. And that alone, since saying that we're not 100% sure, it rattled a few people. That's why it kind of ticked up after his comment, the rates. But since then, rates have come down already. But I just wanted to let you know that through the month, there could be some rattling going on the next couple of months. So hang in there. We might not be at the place where they're ready to cut the Fed rate, but we're getting real close. And there's a reason to believe that the rate lock-in effect would shift as rates come down. What is this rate lock-in effect? Well, it's that they get locked in, homeowners. They're stuck in their house, locked in, because they have a 3 or 4% rate and they don't want to buy a house at 7%. I understand. The rate lock-in effect will ease modestly this year as the rates come down. The economists are saying that we can only imagine if they got below 6, then even more people would be moving as homeowners will become less anchored to their low rate that they got a few years ago. So let me show you the rate projections for 2024. Compared to where they were in December 2023, they adjusted them downward pretty significantly. And now they're saying by mid-year they're going to be just about 6. And they're saying that rates will continue to fall. And I happen to agree with them, especially in quarters 3 and quarters 4. Now the question is, what does this mean to you? Your understanding of what is truly happening with pricing, with mortgaging, is really, really important. People really need to know that the real estate professional that they're working with knows what they're talking about and can explain it. It's an election year, guys, and people are going to be talking about real estate, prices, rates, inflation, all kinds of things. And a lot of people are going to be wondering, is it getting better? That is what I'll be sharing with you over this whole year. I'm going to keep you informed of the real estate reality and what's really happening in the market. And that's why I'm showing you these graphs. If I just stood up here and talked about all these things, you might not believe what I'm saying, until I actually show you and explain to you what's going on here. Our goal, our team here this year, is to make sure that we help as many people understand the market and they make good decisions and get really great results. I've been in this business for 30 years. I've survived many ups and downs, and this is my favorite video to produce for you is the market report. So I hope you can learn something today, and I'll see you next month on the market report. Our next video is going to be this week. We're going to talk about what repairs you must do to your home before you list it in 2024. Look for that video in a couple of days. We'll see you on the next one.